Welcome, California. How are you, my friends? Again, this is Chris McGuire with realestateexamninja.com. I am here to help you pass your real estate exam. Hope you enjoy these practice questions. If you like the video, give it a like, give it a subscribe, give it a thumbs up. I appreciate it. If you guys really are worried about your real estate exam, come check me out at realestateexamninja.com and I'm going to help you pass. Thanks, guys.
1. Before you take the California real estate exam, how many education hours do you need? A. 63 hours. B. 60 hours. C. 53 hours. D. 75 hours. The correct answer is B. 60 hours. You must complete a California Real Estate Commission, FREC, approved 63-hour pre-licensing classroom course. 2. How much time does the testing agency give you to pass the California real estate exam? A. 1 hour. B. 2.5 hours. C. 3.5 hours. D. 5 hours. The correct answer is C. 3.5 hours. Candidates will be given 3.5 hours to complete the entire real estate exam. 3. How old do you have to be in California to obtain a real estate license? A. 20 years old. B. 21 years old. C. 18 years old. D. 25 years old. The correct answer is C. 18 years old. To be a realtor, you must be at least 18 years old. 4. In California, a development has a standard that each home in the area is no less than 2,500 square feet. This is an illustration of which idea? A. Cooperative ownership. B. Restrictive covenant. C. Fair housing laws violation. D. Homestead laws. The correct answer is B. Restrictive covenant. Neighborhood developers or associations create restrictive covenants to ensure that the neighborhood maintains specific standards. Examples include minimum housing size, restrictions on architectural style, or mandated underground sprinkling. 5. In California, when realtors address the purchaser and not the vendor of a piece of property, A. They're engaging in buyer protection. B. Buyer agency. C. Seller protection. D. Good faith. The correct answer is this B. Buyer agency is the term for representation in a real estate transaction. The principal, in this case, the buyer, gives legal authority to an agent to act on the principal's behalf when dealing with a third party. 6. In California, ownership of real property for an undetermined length of time is called A. Non-freehold estate, leasehold estate. B. And est. C. A leasehold estate. D. A freehold estate. The correct answer is D. A freehold estate. A freehold estate is ownership of real property for an undetermined length of time. A non-freehold or leasehold estate has a determinable end. An estate is simply an interest in property that provides the right to possess the land. 7. In California, potential gross pay short opening and assortment misfortunes are A. An adequate gross income. B. Net income. C. Total income. D. Potential income. The correct answer is A. An adequate gross income. Sufficient income is potential gross income minus vacancy and collection losses to calculate net operating income minus operating expenses from the good gross income. 8. In California, an agency contract is being ended. In which situation may there be harms owed to one of the gatherings? A. The owners discharged the agent because she was not acting in their best interest. B. The agent resigned from the contract because he is overloaded with homes to sell. C. The property owner discovers another claim on the title of the house. D. The agency files for bankruptcy. The correct answer is D. The agent resigned from the contract because he is overloaded with homes to sell. Agents and owners may leave from a sale, but they may be liable for damages due to a breach of contract. However, suppose there is a legally sound reason for resignation, such as the owners requesting the agent do something illegal or the agent not acting in the seller's best interest. In that case, there is no penalty for resignation. Being overloaded with homes to sell would not be considered a justifiable reason to end the contract. So the agent may owe the seller some damages: bankruptcy, death, legal incompetence, and multiple claims on the title all automatically terminate the agency relationship by law. 9. In California, Mark has consented to execute a state business in the interest of Alex with Alex's authorization. Imprint is A. A licensed salesperson. B. A neutral party. C. An agent. D. A principal. The correct answer is C. An agent. An agent transacts business or manages the task of another person. Example: the principal according to the authority of the regulation. A principal is a party that the agent represents and acts on behalf of, such as Alex Laurie is not necessarily a licensed salesperson. She can be an agent and hold another position, such as a broker, that requires an agency relationship. 10. Designate as sales associates can be assigned in a non-residential transaction if A. FREC appoints them. B. The buyer and seller each have assets of $1 million or more. C. The broker signs off on it. D. A no-broker relationship disclosure is signed. The correct answer is B. The buyer and seller each have assets of $1 million or more. In a non-residential transaction where the buyer and seller have over $1 million in assets, an employing broker can assign a designated sales associate for a buyer and one for a seller. 11. Which of the subsequent describes a transaction brokerage? A. The broker represents the buyer in the transaction. B. The broker represents both the buying and selling parties. C. The broker represents the seller in the transaction. D. The broker does not represent either party but provides general information and services to each. The correct answer is D. The seller is very eager for an offer because he lost his job and found a new one in a different state. It is improper for a posting specialist to enlighten an imminent purchaser of individual data regarding the vendor, regardless of whether it might support a deal. The main special case would be on account of a dealer educating the specialist to do as such. Doing so would be a confidentiality breach on the part of the listing agent. The broker should answer all questions related to the property honestly. 12. Which is not one of the 3 C's of underwriting? A. Credit. B. Capacity. C. Collateral. D. Conformity. The correct answer is D. Conformity. Capacity is the cash reserve and debt ratio of the borrower. Collateral includes their down payment, property taxes. Credit has their credit score and accounts. Conformity is not one of the 3 C's of underwriting. 13. Who is the typical reverse mortgage customer? A. All of these. B. Someone with a lot of equity in their home. C. Someone with a lot of liquid capital. D. Someone elderly. The correct answer is A. All of these. In a reverse mortgage, the lender gives money to the borrower using the home itself as collateral. The loan typically does not require repayment until death or until the homeowner moves out. Reverse mortgages are popular options for those with all 3 of these attributes: elderly and house rich and cash poor, meaning they have a lot of equity in their home, but not much liquid money. 14. According to HUD standards, which of the following would be an acceptable neighborhood advertisement? A. Traditional living. B. Exclusive neighborhood. C. Muslim friendly. D. Senior housing. The correct answer is D. Senior housing intended to serve those 55 and older is acceptable according to HUD standards. Words characteristic of race, religion, shading, familial status, sex, impairment, or public beginning are not adequate, nor remark that could be thought of as oppressive, for example, selective, prohibitive, customary, or board supported. 15. A real estate agent declines to show a Muslim couple of houses in a neighborhood because she feels the area isn't Muslim friendly. This is known as what? A. Good faith exception. B. Redlining. C. Steering. D. Blockbusting. The correct answer is C. Steering. Steering is the act of directing or not directing clients to a particular area based on race, religion, sex, familial status, national origin, or handicapped. While the agent may believe she acts benevolently by directing her buyers to an area, they will be comfortable. This practice is a violation of the Federal Fair Housing Act. 16. The Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990 what affects which of the following? A. Third-floor apartment in a newly constructed apartment complex. B. An existing business with 20 employees. C. A single-family home. D. Multifamily home with 3 units. The correct answer is B. An existing business with 20 employees. The Americans with Disabilities Act of 1996 accommodates those with disabilities by broadening their access to public facilities. With 15 or more employees, any current company must update its facility to conform with ADA rules and regulations. Almost all new construction, except for single-family homes, must be handicap accessible. At the same time, newly constructed ground-floor apartments are subject to ADA regulations. Those on higher levels are not. As of 1988, multifamily buildings with 4 or more units must comply with ADA standards. 17. When a purchase agreement states the property is being sold as is it? A. Underscores the fact that nothing is warranted. Still requires the buyer to receive transfer disclosure statement TDs noting any material facts which affect the property's value. B. Puts the buyer on notice they should be aware. C. Still requires the buyer to receive transfer disclosure statement TDs noting any material facts which affect the property's value. D. Releases the seller of the requirement to deliver a TDS to the buyer or discloses about the property's condition. The correct answer is C. Still requires the buyer to receive a transfer disclosure statement TDs noting any material facts which affect the property's value, as is a nebulous and frequently misunderstood statement in real estate practice. An exchange divulgence articulation TDS containing property data, including known or suspected property surrenders influencing esteem, should be conveyed to a forthcoming purchaser on the offer of a 4-unit private property when practicable at the beginning of dealings. 18. How much is an intangible tax on a real estate purchase mortgage? A. 002. B. 5. C. 1. D. 5.00. The correct answer is A. 0.002. Intangible tax is 0.002 multiplied by the total mortgage intangible taxes paid on new mortgages only. 19. A property holder is purchasing another home however hasn't sold their old one. Which sort of advance would they get temporarily in restitution when their old house is sold? A. Swing. B. Home equity. C. Wraparound. D. Sale leaseback. The correct answer is A. Swing. A swing loan, also sometimes referred to as a bridge or gap loan, is a short-term loan that allows borrowers to borrow against their current property to buy a new one. They're typically taken out when the borrower wants to buy a bigger home but hasn't sold their existing property. 20. A buyer agrees to purchase a home once the sale of her current home is completed legally. This is known as A. Contingency. B. Option agreement. C. Specific performance. D. Negotiation. The right answer is A. Possibility or possibility provisions are a piece of the agreement of offer that permits a purchaser or vendor to escape the agreement without punishment on account of specifically indicated occasions. 21. Foreclosure occurs when a blank ceases and sells a borrower's blank after the borrower has failed to blank the lender. A. Being a lender home alert. B. Bank personal property appreciates. C. Lender collateral repay. D. Bank property notify. The correct answer is C. Lender collateral repay. A lender requires collateral for a loan. And if the buyer defaults on the terms of the loan agreement, usually through failure to make payments on time, the lender can and will seize the collateral, usually the home and/or property. 22. Reversion of title is a feature of what type of interest? A. Fee simple. B. Fee simple condition subsequent. C. Fee simple conditions precedent. D. Fee simple determinable. The correct answer is D. Fee simple determinable. You may have been tempted to answer fee simple condition subsequent, which allows the right of reentry, the grantor's right to go to court to reclaim the property, and fee simple determinable, the title reverts to the grantor if a specific condition isn't met. 23. Mr. and Mrs. Cox make Mr. and Mrs. Green a proposal on their home. However, they have not heard back from them on whether or not the proposition has been acknowledged. Meanwhile, they have observed another home they might want to buy, all things being equal. What is their most ideal choice? A. Withdrew their offer with a penalty. B. Modify their offer to one they are confident Mr. and Mrs. Green will not accept. C. Wait for Mr. and Mrs. Green's response. If they accept the offer, pay the withdrawal fee outlined in the contract. D. Withdraw their offer with no penalty. The correct answer is D. Withdraws their offer with no penalty. Before an offer has been accepted, the buyers have the right to withdraw their offer with no liability. However, if the seller has already taken the offer, the proposal becomes a contract with legal obligations. 24. The lumber for a deck that has not yet been built is A. Personal property. B. A trade fixture. C. A fixture. D. Real estate. The correct answer is A. Personal property. Personal property is tangible, movable, and not permanently attached to real estate. The lumber can become a fixture and, therefore, real estate if the deck is built. A trade fixture is something used in conjunction with a business. 25. When a purchase agreement states the property is being sold as is it? A. Underscores the fact that nothing is warranted. Still requires the buyer to receive transfer disclosure statement TDs noting any material facts which affect the property's value. B. Puts the buyer on notice they should be aware. C. Still requires the buyer to receive transfer disclosure statement TDs noting any material facts which affect the property's value. D. Releases the seller of the requirement to deliver a TDS to the buyer or discloses about the property's condition. The correct answer is C. Still requires the buyer to receive a transfer disclosure statement TDs noting any material facts which affect the property's value, as is a nebulous and frequently misunderstood statement in real estate practice. An exchange divulgence articulation TDS containing property data, including known or suspected property surrenders influencing esteem, should be conveyed to a forthcoming purchaser on the offer of a 4-unit private property when practicable on the beginning of dealings.